On his 12th birthday, Prince George's joyful celebration turned into heartbreak. When Camilla's son secretly took his beloved dog Orla away, George screamed in shock, and the royal garden fell silent. What was meant to be a happy family day exploded into betrayal, outrage, and a royal reckoning. A birthday begins with joy, until something goes wrong. It was July 22, 2025, a date Prince George had been counting down to for weeks. His 12th birthday. And at Sandringham Estate, the day couldn't have started more perfectly. The sun was shining, the skies were clear, and the sprawling gardens were filled with the quiet laughter of children and the rustling of the summer breeze. George woke up earlier than usual, his bright blue eyes sparkling with joy. He pulled on his favorite t-shirt, the one with Orla's paw print, a gift from his 11th birthday, and ran downstairs with the energy only a child could have. His mother, Princess Catherine, had gone above and beyond to make it magical. The decorations were simple but full of heart. Balloons shaped like puppies, dog print tablecloths, and a custom castle-shaped cake that looked almost too perfect to eat. It was her way of making sure her children felt loved, seen, and safe, away from the spotlight and the weight of the throne. Only a small group of family members had been invited. The Middletons, a few of William's university friends, and of course, Charlotte and Louis, who were buzzing with excitement for their big brother. Orla, the beloved Cocker Spaniel, was meant to be the star of the day alongside George. She'd been his best friend since he was 5, a constant source of comfort in a world filled with rules and royal traditions. George had even planned a mini-performance with Orla and his siblings. Just some silly tricks, nothing professional. But it mattered. "It's just for fun," George had whispered to Charlotte earlier, "but Orla's gonna steal the show." The party had just begun. Music was playing, the scent of flowers filled the air, and everything felt light, until a certain black car pulled through the gates. And with it, everything shifted. Just past noon, a sleek black limousine arrived, unexpected and uninvited by the Cambridges. Queen Camilla, dressed in soft blue silk, stepped out with a tight smile. But those who knew her well could see it wasn't joy behind her eyes, it was discomfort. She scanned the yard, and her face soured slightly as her gaze landed on the children chasing after Orla. "She's really letting them run around like that?" Camilla murmured to her aide. The words were soft, but they cut deep. Within moments, things began moving behind the scenes. Orders were being whispered, and Orla, still bouncing with joy, had no idea that her happy run through the garden would be her last. At least for that day. As one guest quietly said later, that's when the birthday turned. You could feel it. What came next? No one saw it coming. Camilla arrives unannounced, and discomfort follows. Camilla hadn't been invited, and that wasn't a mistake. The party was meant to be a private celebration just for close family and trusted friends. But King Charles, ever eager to keep the peace, had insisted she attend. Reluctantly, William and Kate agreed. After all, what's one more guest? But from the moment Queen Camilla stepped onto the grass at Sandringham, the tension was unmistakable. She walked with her usual royal grace, but her expression hardened when she saw the children laughing and rolling around with Orla. Her dislike for animals, especially dogs, had never been a secret in the royal household. Camilla tugged at her sleeves and gave her longtime aide a small but sharp look. Then she leaned in and said quietly but firmly, Get that animal out of here. This is a royal event, not a kennel." The aide nodded without hesitation. He knew her tone meant there was no room for discussion. At exactly 12:47 p.m., Orla was quietly taken away through a side gate, loaded into a waiting car, and driven off the estate. No announcement, no explanation, not a word to George, not a whisper to Kate, no warning for William, just silence. And then, the dog was gone. Back at the party, the atmosphere remained cheerful for now. George was still playing with his siblings. Charlotte was showing Louis how to tie a balloon animal. The adults were sipping tea in the garden. Camilla sat down with a pleasant smile, as if nothing had happened. But behind that smile was a choice that would set off a chain reaction no one could stop. She might have thought she was keeping things in order, protecting the royal image, but what she did instead was light the fuse to a quiet explosion. Orla wasn't just a dog. She was George's best friend, his emotional anchor, his comfort in a palace that often demanded silence over feelings. One of the staff members, watching everything from the side, later whispered, "You could feel it. Something was about to snap." And that snap came fast, in the form of a 12-year-old's scream that stopped everything. Orla disappears, but no one notices at first. The party continued as if nothing had happened. Music played softly from the garden speakers. Children ran barefoot on the warm Sandringham lawn, their laughter mixing with the rustle of the trees. And yet, something had shifted. George was still smiling then, chasing Charlotte around a giant tree, unaware that his closest companion was no longer nearby. Orla, the fluffy spaniel with the golden coat and soulful eyes, was gone. Not just out of sight, but out of the estate entirely. And nobody had told him. The dog had been removed quietly under Camilla's whispered order at exactly 12:47 p.m., loaded into a vehicle with no farewell, no leash, no blanket. Not even her puppies, born just weeks earlier, were left behind. The car sped away, and by 1 p.m., Orla was miles from the garden where George still believed she was playing. The royal staff, some shocked, others too afraid to speak, said nothing. After all, this wasn't just any order. It came from Queen Camilla, and disobeying it could risk a career. Kate was inside, refilling lemonade jugs for the kids. William was mingling quietly near the rose garden with Michael Middleton. And Camilla? She was seated calmly under a parasol, sipping tea, not a hair out of place. It wasn't until the time came for the traditional family photo at 1:15 p.m. that the truth started creeping in. "Where's Orla?" George asked, brushing dirt off his shorts. "She always sits with me for the picture." He whistled once, then again, no bark, no sound. He frowned, looking around. "Orla, come here, girl." Still nothing. Charlotte shrugged, thinking maybe the dog was resting. Louis ran off to look behind a hedge, but something in George's face changed. His smile faded. His voice grew louder, and worry set in. One staff member, older and visibly nervous, stood by the edge of the garden. George ran to him. "Have you seen Orla? She was just here." The man hesitated. His eyes dropped to the ground. "She's been taken away, young sir," he said in a low, shaking voice. George froze. "What do you mean, taken away?" He didn't get an answer, just silence. And that silence broke everything. George screams in shock. His world collapses. It happened fast. At exactly 1:18 p.m., the party stopped cold. George's voice rang out across the garden, high, sharp, filled with disbelief. Who took her? Why? This is my birthday. She's my best friend. The guests turned. Even the balloons seemed to pause in the air. His face was flushed, tears forming in his eyes as he stood in the middle of the lawn, fists clenched, chest heaving. For a child raised under the weight of royal expectations, Prince George had always been calm, composed. But not now, not today, not when someone had dared to take away the one thing he truly loved. He looked around, wild with confusion. Did someone let her out? Did she get lost? Where is she? Charlotte stood frozen, holding Louis's hand tightly. Kate dropped the tray she was carrying and ran to her son, her heart already pounding. The guests whispered, some gasped. William, hearing the cries, rushed toward his child, but the damage had been done. A birthday meant to celebrate a future king had turned into a moment of raw, human heartbreak. One guest, a family friend, later told a reporter, "I've never seen a royal child break like that in public. You could feel the pain. That scream? It was real. It came from somewhere deep." Kate dropped to her knees, holding George tightly. "George, love, breathe. What happened?" "They took Orla," he sobbed. "Somebody took her without telling me. I didn't even get to say goodbye." Kate's eyes narrowed. Her lips tightened. She looked over George's shoulder, straight toward Camilla, still seated, still silent. She knew. And in that moment, Catherine made a silent vow. She would get the truth, and someone would answer for it. Kate's protective rage. A mother steps in. The second George collapsed into Kate's arms, something shifted. She wasn't just the poised Princess of Wales anymore. She was a mother, and a furious one. Holding her son as he cried, Kate's heart cracked. His voice, shaking, broken, still rang in her ears. "They took Orla without telling me. It's like I don't even matter." Kate stood up, brushing her hands down her dress, her face pale but fierce. Her eyes scanned the garden. Guests tried to look away. Some whispered. Some waited to see what she'd do. But Kate didn't hesitate. She moved fast, sharp, pulling one of her most trusted aides aside near the hallway entrance of the estate. Her tone? Ice cold. "Where is the dog?" she asked plainly. "And I want the truth. Now." The aide, a woman who had served the Cambridges for over 6 years, swallowed hard. "Ma'am, it was Her Majesty. Queen Camilla asked for the dog to be removed." Kate blinked. Once. Then again. "Camilla?" Her voice cracked. "She gave the order? On my son's birthday?" The aide nodded slowly. "She said it wasn't proper." "That was it?" Kate stormed inside the house, hands clenched. Her heels echoed off the polished floor as she entered a private lounge and shut the door behind her. For the next 20 minutes, no one dared disturb her. Later, another staff member would say, "You didn't need to hear her voice. You could feel it. She wasn't just angry. She was betrayed." When Kate returned to the garden, her eyes found William immediately. She gave the smallest shake of her head. Not now. This wasn't just a party anymore. It was damage control, and it was war. And war came quickly, with Camilla's own voice cutting through the crowd. Camilla confronts George and makes it worse. As the photo session approached, guests started gathering by the garden's central lawn. The royal photographer was ready. The positioning had been arranged. William, Kate, Charlotte, Louis, all standing where they always did for family portraits. But George wouldn't move. He stood off to the side, arms folded, staring at the empty patch of grass where Orla always sat at his feet. His hat hung loosely in one hand. His eyes were hollow. "Come on, son," William said gently, stepping closer. "Let's take the photo. Everyone's waiting." George looked up. His voice was calm but sharp. "Then they can keep waiting. If Orla's not in the picture, neither am I." The crowd murmured. The photographer froze. That's when Camilla, still standing with her aide under the nearby oak tree, turned sharply toward the boy. Her tone was loud, public, cold. "Such disrespect over a dog. This is a royal portrait, George. You need to learn to behave." Silence. Pure silence. Kate's jaw locked. William's face changed, from calm to furious in a second. He stepped forward, shielding George with his body. His voice didn't rise, but it cut like a knife. "You don't speak to my son like that. Not today, not ever. Orla is family. What you did today, that's the real disrespect." Camilla's lips parted in shock. Guests looked between them, unsure whether to stay or walk away. Charlotte held Louis's hand tightly. The boy whispered, "Why is everyone mad?" And with that, the royal mask cracked wide open in front of the whole family. And this time, there was no covering it back up. Charles explodes. At Camilla, the king takes a side. The moment the photo disaster ended, the atmosphere at Sandringham shifted from tense to electric. Conversations were clipped. Staff avoided eye contact. And King Charles, who had watched the situation unfold from a distance, quietly asked two aides to bring Camilla inside. It was 6:42 p.m. when Charles entered the private drawing room. The door closed behind him, and the heavy silence felt like storm clouds pressing down on the estate. Camilla stood near the fireplace, arms folded, trying to maintain composure. But Charles was already on edge. The flash of George's cry, Kate's shaking hands, and William's fury replaying in his mind. He didn't sit down. He didn't breathe slowly. He went straight in. "Why did you do it?" he demanded, his voice shaking more from emotion than volume. Camilla blinked. "Do what?" "You know exactly what I mean," Charles snapped. "Ordering the dog to be taken away on George's 12th birthday without telling William or Catherine." There was no softening, no comforting tone. Not tonight. Camilla lifted her chin. The animal was running wild. It looked chaotic. "We are royalty, Charles. We can't present ourselves that way." Charles slammed his hand onto the table. The sound echoed through the room. "A dog won't destroy the monarchy, but cruelty will." His voice cracked on the last word, and Camilla froze. "You saw him," Charles continued, pacing. "That boy, your husband's grandson, was shattered today. And for what? Because you didn't like the dog? Because it didn't fit your idea of royal presentation?" Camilla tried to defend herself. "I was thinking of the image." "The image?" Charles interrupted. "The image. Camilla, you humiliated yourself more in one afternoon than any dog ever could." For the first time, Camilla looked truly shaken. Her lips trembled. She reached for the mantle as if needing support. Charles took a deep breath. "You've put a crack in this family. A deep one. William's furious. Catherine is humiliated. The children are heartbroken. And the public—" He paused, lowering his voice. "The public will destroy us if this leaks." Camilla looked away. He added one more blow. "I stood by you for decades. But today, You were wrong, completely wrong." And with that, Charles stepped back from her. The line had been drawn, but another, even harsher line was about to be drawn, this time by William and Kate themselves. William and Kate lay down the law. Camilla banned. By the time the sun dipped behind the Sandringham trees, tension had taken over the estate. George was in his room, face buried in a pillow, refusing dinner. Charlotte was quiet. Louis kept asking, "Is Orla coming back?" And Kate? She had stopped shaking and started planning. At 8:03 p.m., she and William met privately in the small sitting room off the East Corridor. No staff, no distractions, just two parents, exhausted and furious. Kate spoke first. "She hurt him, William. She humiliated our son. And she did it because she felt like it. No warning, no respect, no humanity." William sat beside her, elbows on his knees. "I know, and I'm done pretending we can keep the peace for appearances. It ends tonight." Kate looked at him, waiting, and William didn't hesitate. "Camilla is banned from our children's lives. Birthdays, holidays, family events, everything. She doesn't come near them again." Kate's breath caught. She knew how big this was. "Your father won't like that," she whispered. William nodded. "He doesn't have to. I'm protecting my family now, and I don't care about the consequences." He stood up, pacing, frustration boiling in the space between them. "For years, we've let old wounds dictate how we move. Diana, the remarriage, the public pressure. But our children deserve better. George deserves better." Kate moved closer, touching his arm. "Then we agree," she said softly but firmly. "No more Camilla." They shook hands, an unspoken contract sealed between the future king and queen. Within the next 2 hours, William drafted a private message to Charles. It was short, direct, impossible to misinterpret. "For the well-being of my children, Camilla is no longer permitted at any private family events. I will not reconsider this." At 10:19 p.m., the message was delivered. What started as a birthday gathering had turned into a historic break inside the royal family. A rupture that could not be undone. And outside the estate, another shockwave was coming. The public was about to take George's side in a way no one expected. The public turns. George's pain goes viral. By the next morning, July 28, 2025, the walls of Sandringham were still holding the tension from the day before. But outside the estate, a storm had begun. It started quietly with one video. Michael Middleton, George's grandfather, uploaded a short, grainy clip to his barely used social account. It was a home video from 2 years earlier. George, about 10, laughing as he rolled on the grass with Orla, her tail wagging wildly. At the end, the young prince hugged her and whispered into her ear, "You're the best in the world." The caption was simple, cutting, honest. A boy who doesn't need a throne, just a friend, not taken away. And that was all it took. By 11:30 a.m., the video had been shared over 400,000 times. By lunchtime, it crossed 2 million views. And by evening, it was everywhere. X, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. The hashtags trended fast and hard. #, Justice for Orla. #, Let George be George. #, Not just a dog. People weren't just upset. They were heartbroken, angry, moved. One viral comment read, "You can't hurt a child and expect silence. Not in this world anymore." Cartoonists began drawing illustrations of George holding Orla's paw. Protesters showed up outside Buckingham Palace, holding signs like "Give George his joy back" and "Leave the kids alone." Even animal rights groups joined in, with one organization launching a petition demanding a public apology from Queen Camilla. It gained over 500,000 signatures in 48 hours. Tabloids jumped on it instantly. The Daily Mail ran the headline, "A Birthday Betrayal. Why did Camilla take George's dog?" The Sun followed with, "Future King in Tears. Palace faces fury over missing pup." Even more damaging? The story jumped borders. International media, from CNN to Le Monde, began drawing comparisons to other royal missteps, framing Camilla as the insensitive step-grandmother. Inside the palace, aides panicked. The Royal Communications Office cancelled Camilla's upcoming appearance and issued a vague statement about re-evaluating protocols around family gatherings. But the damage was already done. And while the internet mourned with George, the boy himself had quietly taken the most powerful step of all. A future king awakens and draws the line. Inside his bedroom, the youngest heir to the throne wasn't scrolling through headlines. He wasn't watching videos or reading posts. He was sitting at his desk, under the soft glow of a reading lamp, writing something that came straight from his heart. Prince George, now officially 12, opened his personal diary, a gift from Kate, and poured his thoughts into the page. His handwriting was small, uncertain, but the message was unforgettable. "If even my best friend can't stay, what's the point of keeping the throne? I don't want to be king if I have to live without real love." Later that evening, Kate entered his room to straighten the bed and noticed the diary left slightly open. She hadn't meant to read it, but one glance at those words and her chest tightened. She whispered, "My George, you're growing stronger. You're becoming who you were meant to be." Tears welled in her eyes, not just out of pain, but pride. And meanwhile, William, after sending the final message banning Camilla, stood by the fireplace, eyes locked on the burning embers. He had made a decision, not just as a father, but as the future king. He turned to Kate and said quietly, "We've built our family differently. This is the monarchy we'll protect, one where love matters more than image." From that night forward, a new rule was silently established. No more silent suffering. No more looking the other way. The next generation would lead not through cold tradition, but through compassion, even if it meant breaking from the past. George didn't just lose Orla that day. He found something else. His voice, his truth, his future, and perhaps the first step toward becoming a king the world could finally believe in. The story ends here, but the shift inside the royal family is just beginning. Prince George's scream wasn't just a child's cry, it was a breaking point inside Britain's most powerful family. What started as a stolen toy became a symbol of disrespect, control, and generational pain. Camilla's quiet order exposed deep cracks the monarchy could no longer hide. But in that silence, George found something powerful: his voice. And as William and Catherine took a bold stand to protect their children, a new royal chapter quietly began. This wasn't just a birthday gone wrong, it was the moment a future king drew the line. And the world? It's still talking.